Good afternoon. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. All right, so we're ready to start. I was just waiting for McHugh here from our handsome and magnificent staff of PMAP for my cue to start, and they've been given me the cue, so we will start our session. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining our webinar this afternoon, and I am so happy that PMAP invited me again to give this talk on accelerate transformation. But before we go into our discussion, let's have first our boring stuff. So we're using Zoom this afternoon, and just some reminders on how we will do this session. Don't forget that you can use the raise hand menu, and if you want to say something, you can go on. You can unmute yourself, mention your name first before speaking, and when you're done, mute your line again so that we will not hear your background. If you have any question or any message to myself, to the panelists, or to everyone, you can use the chat button or you can use the Q&A button. You can enter your question there. But if the group chat becomes a distraction for you, you can turn it off by clicking on the chat icon. And we are recording this session, so this will be uploaded to the PMAP website for those who wants to have a copy of this presentation. You can access later on and download it from there. Now, I have the tendency to speak too fast. I always get that feedback. So if I'm too fast or too slow, I hope I would have that feedback that I'm too slow. But if for some reason I'm too fast or too slow, do call me attention through the chat feature or the Q&A feature. And we only have 1 hour this afternoon, but this is a very complex topic. So if it's too short, let us talk. Email me at j@lhh.com.ph. You can also see that just at the bottom of the screen, and also connect with me through my LinkedIn, and you can see there my ID. So that's for our house rules. Allow me to introduce myself. So my name is Joanne Rosary, etc. I'm the managing director for Lee Hecht Harrison Philippines. I have my number there, my contact details. Feel free to get in touch with me if you have any questions. But you might be wondering, who is Lee Hecht Harrison? So allow me to introduce who Lee Hecht Harrison is. So it's a global company, and what we do is really help companies simplify the complexity associated with transformation. And our objective is so that you would be able to accelerate results and be able to manage the risk. We do this by helping your employees navigate change, become better leaders, develop better careers, and transition into new jobs. This is our footprint. As the world's leading integrated talent development and transition company, we have the local expertise, the global infrastructure, and industry-leading technology required to simplify the complexity associated with executing critical talent and workforce initiatives. And we have teams in more than 60 countries around the world. So this helps us really deliver a strong support, but also localized according to your constraints. What do we do? How do we support your transformation? So allow me to share with you our capabilities. First is we have capabilities on assessments and analytics. So this helps increase the accuracy of your talent decisions. We also have capabilities on talent development, and this helps shift mindset, develop change behaviors, and build accountability, which is a very important feature or component if you would like to accelerate transformation. We also have career development. So this is organized and a formalized approach aligned to the individual's career needs of your people so that you would be able to have your talents and leaders in the future. We have change management, and this supports your transformation and also make sure that you have an engaged workforce while you are going through your business change. We have career transition, so this helps maintain the brand and keep your remaining employees engaged while we are taking care of your employees that has to exit the organization. And lastly, we have coaching. So this helps develop high potential talent, your future leaders into new roles, and ensure that you have a pipeline of talent. So that's Lee Hecht Harrison. Let's go to our topic for the day. So it's accelerate transformation. This is just a very quick session, just for 1 hour. And hopefully we would be able to achieve these three objectives. So we want to identify the critical transformation capabilities that will help you ensure that you are able to achieve your transformation objectives. Hopefully, we would have time to learn how to ensure leaders have the right understanding, approach, and tools to guide their teams through change. And also, very important is ensuring that employees are emotionally resilient and change ready. So these are the three things that we would like to achieve for this afternoon. And how are we going to do that? Our roadmap for the next 50 minutes, I guess, because we have already completed 10 minutes, is to talk about the why of transformation. Why are we talking about transformation now? What is transformation? We always hear about it. It's now a buzzword. And of course, at the end of our session, which is what we really want to focus on, is how do we make sure that we are able to accelerate transformation so that we would be where we want to be as quickly, but of course, as efficiently and as effectively as we want it to be. So that's our coverage for this afternoon, and hopefully we would be able to cover it. But if this is only a very short discussion on this is accelerate transformation, this is just to give you an overview. And I was having a discussion with the PMAP staff here, and we have agreed to have a follow-through session because, as I have mentioned, this is just an overview, and we will not be able to give to deep dive into the topics, which is of course very important as well. So for this afternoon, let's just have an overview of what are the things that we have to be mindful of if we are leading and managing transformation. And having said that, I invite you to reflect on, for the participants who has experience on change management, on leading and management change, I invite you to just go back and try to reflect what was the most difficult, most challenging aspect when you were leading or managing change. What was it? Was it the system, the structure, the people? What comes to mind? I invite you to type your answer, to enter your answer in the chat box, and I will get back to that later on. But for now, just try to recall what was the most stressful aspect of it. Many of us, we have experience on change management, and it's not easy. It's just really difficult. But what made it difficult? So reflect on that and enter your answers in the chat box. We will get back to that in a little while. All right, so now why are we talking about transformation? And it's really because we are now on what is called the fourth industrial revolution. And that is altering the way we live, the way we work, and relate to one another. It's just disturbing because the scale, the scope, and the complexity is just so different from what we have experienced before. We don't know it yet how it will unfold. We don't know what 5 year will look like from now. But the response to it must be integrated and it must be comprehensive. So today, all companies are transforming. It's not a surprise that we're now experiencing an extraordinary period of disruption. In response to this turmoil, a lot of organizations are transforming themselves in order to remain relevant and successful in this new landscape. However, corporate transformations still have a miserable success rate. Either they fail to deliver the anticipated benefits or they are abandoned entirely and they go back to where they were before. Many of our customers in LHH, they've shared with us that they are either going through or planning a significant transformation. However, we're happy that they're talking to us because we know that despite the investment in change management, only 12% of transformations succeed. In our experience, the major leading reason to these poor transformation outcomes lies in the fact that organizations don't take a rigorous approach to integrating all the initiatives required at an organizational and people level to coherently implement lasting change. We now have to acknowledge that change is constant. We always hear that, that's a buzzword. But this time it's different. It's just difficult because there are a lot of research on companies that have attempted to transform. And we have also seen in the research that 74% of CEOs are striving to be a disruptor in their sector. So transformation is now the new normal. And this is really because the magnitude and speed of technology-led disruption continues to increase, and the barriers between human and machines are eliminated. Incremental change is no longer enough for organizations to remain competitive and customer relevant. So, as I mentioned, transformation is a new normal. However, transformation is not a one time event. Organizations and people need to be prepared for continuous transformation. Research shows that on average, large organizations have to transform every 2 to 3 years to remain competitive. And on average, transformation takes 18 months. So um, it was just different in previous times when change used to take 5 to 7 years to execute, and an average happened every 10 years. We know that organizational change is challenging and that transformation is even harder. When faced with transformation, organizations can no longer rely on the strategies that they have traditionally leveraged. It's natural for us to want to stick to the status quo, driving more and more discrete change management projects, maybe change one structure, one position, or a system, while under investing in the future growth strategies, which does not lead to transformation. So it's now really about finding the right balance. All too often, we see companies prioritize their focus on restructuring the organization and or re-engineering processes or reorganizing their workforce or business activities. And we sometimes are invited to have conversations about restructuring, reorganizing workforce. However, when we go into these discussions, we realize that that's not the solution. That's not transformation. And they have to look at other aspects of the organization for them to realize what they want to achieve. However, most organizations don't spend enough time or effort on reinventing and reimagining their business and re-engaging their people. As a result, most organizations achieve incremental change and never truly transform. It's important for us to recognize that change and transformation, although they are related, are two very different things. So let's quickly talk about that. I have here a slide on the differences between change and transformation. Again, they're related, but two very different things. Change is focused on improving what you already do. For example, improving a business process, launching a new product that is aligned with your current strategy. Transformation, on the other hand, focuses on creating something completely new, like a new value proposition that is dramatically different than your current one. For example, financial services organizations are trying to transform into technology companies to meet the expectations of consumers and compete against technology platform of the fintech companies. To plan change, you need to make assumptions that are based on what you have done in the past or what you're doing currently. To plan transformation, however, your assumptions must be anchored in the future. Of course, we have to consider the past and what we're doing currently, but we have to anchor also in the future. Change is planned with a clearly defined end state or goal. Transformation is planned with, in some cases, uncertainty and ambiguity, where we might actually end up. And we have encountered a lot of companies that, quite a few, just especially in the past weeks, where we say, what's the end vision? Of course, they would have their desired end state, but the leader would be quick to say that we have to be ready, we have to be agile, and also quick to change our plans, because we never know what's going to happen. So change projects are no longer executed in a linear way. Transformation is now is executed using exploration, experimentation, and a lot of iteration. So finally, change is often planned at the top and driven down. Transformation requires participation from the entire organization and in all directions. We also have to remember that transformation takes place over time. Now, during transformation, an organization has two areas of focus. First, effort and energy are required to continue to run the existing core business. So this is your business as usual. Generate revenue, keep the lights on, basically. However, at the same time, work must be done to reimagine and reinvent the business or operating models and or customer employee experiences to achieve transformation goals. At the end of transformation, more resources will be focused on the core business. Over time, as transformation progresses, that balance will shift. As opportunities identified throughout transformation are acted on, legacy business activities and processes will be retired, and a newly defined business operating model will become the new normal. Then the cycle repeats, often with pressure to shorten transformational timelines. And to thrive in this type of environment, leaders need to evolve their capabilities. What has been required to succeed in a business as usual environment where incremental change and continuous improvement are the norm is not enough to drive transformation. Transformation requires additional leader capabilities, and that's really because this is how change looks like now. There's the trend of continuous multiple simultaneous changes. Technology keeps on changing, and we can't deny that we are anchoring a lot of our transformation activities on technology. Change plans has to be dynamic. We design change plans for 3, 5, 10 years, and we have to be ready to change course, to change direction. So it's really quite challenging nowadays. But what does successful transformation look like? What we have uncovered in LHH is that when an organization has a clear connection between their overall transformation strategy and how they plan to implement that strategy from both an organizational and people level, they're better set up for success, ensuring that they have alignment of their priorities across the organization, but also understanding where they might have gaps and where they need to address those. It's also important that there is commitment across the organization, from the top down to the bottom, up to not only to drive the transformation efforts, but also having committed leaders and managers who can actively drive the participation in a way that delivers results that matter. And lastly, the ability to accelerate the necessary mindset shift and development of those transformational capabilities that will be required. Understanding the approach to drive successful transformation helps us to identify what is needed to ensure repeated success. However, the reality is transformation is not easy. I think we've been saying that over and over. It can be a painful and a drawn out process, one that tends to focus more on difficult decisions rather than an equal balance of both the tough choices and strategy to drive growth. Now, when I say the pain, what was painful, and also what are the opportunities, I'll share with you here what we have, what we call the reality of transformation. The goal for any transformation effort is the pursuit of value. Ideally, that entails both improving efficiency through streamlining and cost cutting, and for LHH, we call that the pain curve, while at the same time reinvesting in growth, which we call the gain curve. What we have experienced is that transformation efforts derail because organizations focus too narrowly on one or the other. So, in most cases, we have seen that when an organization streamlines their business through productivity improvements, cost cutting, outsourcing, restructuring, they undermine growth. The cuts are so deep that they cripple their capabilities, destroy the morale, and remove the foundation that could spark new endeavors. While this focus may lead to some level of change, it will not drive long-term, valuable transformational outcomes. However, we have also witnessed that if organizations are only focusing on the reinvestment in growth, organizations can run the risk of losing their way. There needs to be a dual focus on both the pain and the gain, which we refer to as critical juncture. It is at this point in the transformation, while balancing both the necessary pain and the future thinking gain, that you will need to accelerate those transformation efforts up the gain curve so that you would be able to drive customer relevance and growth within your market. But we have to remember that there are different kinds of change. So LHH framework supports different kinds of change. Let me have a quick run through of that. So we have structural, organic, operational, including strategy, technical. So you have new systems, new knowledge, cultural, and of course that affects us on a personal level as well. Someone adjusts or replaces one of these pieces, and that change inadvertently knocks over the other pieces. So we know that if you change the structure, you have to change your operational strategy. And in some cases, you would also need new skills, new knowledge, new technologies. It causes a chain reaction, which we always hear is a domino effect. But This occurs when a small change causes another similar change nearby, which will then cause another similar change. So this is a linear sequence. It typically refers to a connected sequence of events or linkages within systems. So these are the different kinds of change. Now, going back into our discussion, before I also talk about the others, I'd like to invite you to share with us what change are you experiencing in your organization right now? Choose as whatever is applicable. It might not just be one, so you can choose as many as applicable to your situation. Is it structural? Is it operational? Are you also changing the strategy? Is it technical? Is it cultural? So I invite you to select your answer on the poll, which I have on your screen right now. So what I'm seeing here is there's cultural, followed by structural and technical. So for the others, you still have time. So I'll be closing it in a few minutes. But these are the areas that we sometimes experience where we do change. So as leaders and managers in organization, we are sometimes tasked with changing the structure, the technical aspect of the organization. And what we hear now is the cultural transformation. So let me share with you the responses. Here we have our highest answer is cultural. So 50% is saying that they're now experiencing cultural transformation. And I can imagine that would also require having changes in other aspects of your organization. So and as leaders, it's so difficult. I can imagine the sleepless nights that you may be experiencing. However, just to share with you, I saw this just a few days ago. All management is change management, and change management is management. So we have no way of escaping it. Whatever our function, whatever our department may be, we have to really make sure that we can manage change, we can lead change. So it's really on us to make sure that we are able to achieve the transformation goals. But the challenge on us is that change is not always linear. Actually, nowadays, it's not linear anymore. A lot of systems in nature show periods of turbulence and instability with dramatic changes or growth spurts. If we change structures, we have to look at processes or behavior patterns. If we change processes, that are not supported by changes in structures and behaviors, the change efforts will fail. If we attempt to alter behavior, we also have to assess structures and processes. Just the other day, I was speaking with someone who wanted to have a culture of open feedback, of open conversation. And I said, how do you give feedback in your meetings? What went well and what can be done? Um, and he shared that they don't do that. I said, start to practice in small ways first. If you want to have a culture of open feedback, of candor, you do it in the hallway. You don't post it on the wall. You start to do it in the pantry where you give feedback. You start to do it in informal conversations, not only during performance discussion. And that's when you start to make people feel comfortable about the culture that you want to achieve. So that's an example. Change is not pervasive and it's really widely spread across geographical boundaries, multiple organizations, multiple distinctive groupings. And in some cases, actually, we find ourselves in different change curve at a given time. So what I have here on the screen is a person may be on the blue curve in terms of structure, but that person may be on the red curve in terms of processes. So, and to add to that burden is that personal life might also be in a different curve. So individuals may be facing multiple changes and may be in different stages of change. Deeply challenging to correct mental models and ways of thinking is that when we are in this number of changes, it evokes some pushback from others because it's just so different from the usual. It's just so uncomfortable for many of us. And it's just not as simple as that as well. We might be also in a roller coaster. So at the given point in time, we might be in reappraisal, we are recommitted, and then something happens, we're letting go again. And for us leaders who are managing and leading these changes, we could have stakeholders who are at different stages at a given point in time. So we have leaders who are now in recommitment. And you have employees who are in letting go stage, and you have clients who are in reappraisal. So transformation is not easy as we would like it to be, and that transformation proves to be complex and challenging, and that is hard for organizations to be successful. But the question is, what if we could increase the odds of successful transformation? And what do we need to do? By building the mindset and capabilities within an organization for transformation to happen, while building levels of agility and leadership capabilities to ensure that you are remaining relevant to your customers' ever changing needs. But the question is, what capabilities are we talking about? Let me share with you the different capabilities that we have identified. And this is through a study by Lee Hecht Harrison, which we also use as a basis when we go into supporting our clients in determining if they're ready for transformation. So what you have on the screen now are leader capabilities. But we have to remember that what has been required to succeed in a business as usual environment where incremental change is the norm is not enough to drive transformation. Transformation requires additional leader capabilities. Leaders need to evolve their capabilities in order to thrive in today's environment. For example, knowing the business and applying an owner's or growth mindset, it can help, but it might not bring us our desired objective, because your leaders need to be able to navigate ambiguity and take calculated risks to make assumptions about future business conditions and customer needs. Your leaders need to be able to reimagine the business, create a vision of a bold new future, and ensure that the entire organization is committed to and participating in experimentation and iteration to receive the goals. And then your managers are the translators in the middle, and we need to have strong managers. So, as your leaders push ideas down to the managers for implementation, your managers need to be working with employees to push ideas for consideration or implementation. And it requires them to act as an important translator or conduit between ideation and implementation that flows into directions. As an implementer, your managers need to ensure that they work to prioritize the highest value initiatives to avoid straining resources and identify the best resources for their projects. They also need to keep employees excited and productive throughout, and maybe an undefined period that includes a great deal of ambiguity. Speaking of the employees, frontline participation is mandatory. Employees need to evolve their skills too. As transformation occurs under considerable uncertainty and ambiguity, and achieving goals requires experimentation and iteration, ensuring that the participation of your people who actually do the work, that they will be the first to spot problems and opportunities, that is very critical. Your frontline employees need to have a clear understanding of the transformation vision and, most importantly, their role in the process. They need to commit to the journey without fully understanding what the end state will look like, and they have to co create the future. They have to be comfortable with ambiguity, with not knowing what's going to happen next. They have to be comfortable with changing priorities, changing direction, and for that to happen, you need to invest in developing capabilities like creative thinking and problem solving, learning agility, self awareness, and resilience to ensure that your employees can productively contribute to your transformation initiatives. It is with this in mind that LHH, we have developed a very simple framework to address what is needed to accelerate and execute successful transformation. This framework focuses on four areas. So allow me to walk you through the four areas. The first is readiness of the whole organization. And then we talk about people readiness as well, capability development, and performance optimization. We have seen that highly sophisticated systems, very good programs, or you have technology that has been tested and has been successful in other organizations. That is very good. And we have also seen transformation or technology transformation, people transformation, where there's a very significant, very good plan, very sophisticated plan, and you have identified what to do, you have identified your milestones, but we all know about the iceberg, right? And what's really going to drive the strength and the success of all these plans are the mindset of your people, their behavior. And that is what we want to address with the framework of LHH on accelerate transformation. Let me provide you a little more detail about each of these. Let's start with readiness of the organization. It is critical to understand that the readiness of the organization to transform is very important. You have to know if your organization has the key drivers to transform and improve who you are in order to remain relevant in today's complex world. As we have described earlier, transformation requires complicated but concerted efforts to reach all parts, all levels of the organization. It is critical that you identify the readiness, for it prepares the organization for the complex task of transformation. And we have to understand that readiness is not an end state. It's a constant state of readiness. So now it's we have the SEA Games, and I'm sure you can relate that athletes, whether or not there's a game or there's a competition, they continue to train, they continue to practice, ready for the next game, whatever, wherever, however that looks like. Why is it important for us to make sure that the organization is ready? It's really because you don't want to invest money, time, and effort into transformation, not knowing if your organization has the capabilities to accomplish it effectively. Readiness gives you the knowledge and assurance that your organization will achieve desired outcomes. And in some cases, it actually helps save the reputation because it allows you to avoid a potentially high failure because by engaging in transformation that you were not ready to complete. So that's one very critical part that we have to be really mindful of. And the next one is we talk about people readiness. So under people readiness, you have to look at the individual readiness levels of the leaders, defined as when we say leaders, we're talking about leaders of leaders, and also managers and individuals within the organization. There was one time I remember that a leader, a senior executive approached me and said to me that they were ready for the transformation because all the hardware and the software have been installed and the employees have been trained and they now know how to do it. Actually, this is a very recent experience. So one very senior executive was insisting that they now proceed with what they wanted to do because they already had the training. However, skills and knowledge training does not necessarily mean that the employees were change ready. Employees has to understand why the change is needed, and there has to be a general perception that the value to be gained from the transformation is higher than the pain. So they have to see that it will benefit them. They have to be willing to commit themselves. They have to be willing to buy into the vision so that they will embrace it and bring it forward. People readiness is the ability of your employees and their capability to adopt the actions and behaviors needed to realize the outcome of the transformation. And when we say people readiness, it includes internalization of the need for change, and the employees understand that if they don't do something now, it could be, of course, the cost of they would experience the cost of inaction, and it has to be in their mindset. There has to be high level of motivation and commitment to take action. And it's very important for us to know the level of readiness of our employees at the beginning of the change. But we don't stop there. We have to regularly reassess it all throughout the transformation journey so that we would be able to define the strategies needed to increase readiness and perform resistance. We have partnered with a lot of companies. I remember one company, and their transformation journey was documented and it won an award in the global level where every week the leaders would assess where the people are in the change curve, and they were using the model of Lee Hecht Harrison, the behavior-based change model. So they would on a weekly basis determine what the reactions are, what the concerns are, what the questions are, and they will change their strategy, they will review their communication plan, and they will decide right there and then what they have to do for that week. So it's not a one size fits all kind of change plan. You have to be ready to iterate it, whatever the situation is there. So It helps when you regularly reassess the readiness of your people, what their concerns are, where their resistance is coming from, so that you would be able to have the appropriate strategy or measures to address that. And not only that, it also help you identify the timeline to ensure adoption and sustainability of your desired results would be achieved. And I have also seen that when you are conscious of where your people are on the change curve, you are able to, and we have seen this quite a lot, you are able to achieve to prevent and manage change fatigue. We have partnered with a lot of organizations where they just kept on changing, kept on implementing another change one after the other. At some point, the employees were just zombies waiting for the names to be called. Not the productivity was too low, and they were seeing the results in terms of their revenue because the employees were just waiting for the next change. So, and that was really a tiring season for them. We're so happy because this organization has decided to let's stop first and then let's review where we are. So if you continue to reassess where your people are, you would be able to identify potential barriers. And because one challenge as well, if you overlook your readiness of the people, is you will also break down the culture of trust. So make sure that you are in touch with where your people are. And the next one is we talk about capability development. Okay. So under capability development, you begin to build out the necessary development plan aligned to the capabilities that you want to achieve. Again, you focus on three levels: the leader, the manager, and the individuals. The capabilities are key intangible assets. You can't see them, you can't touch them, you can't measure them, but they make all the difference in the world when it comes to transformation. What's very sad is that when we talk to clients, they would talk about other aspects of transformation: technology, structure, policies, procedures. And I remember again another executive who said that they should be ready to accept that because they will have transition bonus if they'll finish the project. If they achieve their targets, then they would have another bonus. But it's not just that. Transformation has to happen in several levels. However, many transformations fail to deliver. Why? Again, it's really because companies fail to focus, develop, and most importantly, sustain the capabilities needed for successful transformation. When we say capability, we mean an ingrained ability to do something well in a way that improves performance. Lasting transformations hinge on capabilities. Identifying and developing these essential capabilities can mean the difference between a successful, sustained transformation and a short-term change effort that will quickly fade away. We have to recognize that capabilities call for changes in mindset and behaviors, and behavioral change is hard. Without a well thought of, a well planned, well thought of strategy, a methodical approach, companies can change these behaviors only superficially and temporarily. And it's sad because that's when the transformation process is over and attention shifts to the next priority, employees might easily revert to their old ways of working and the improvements of the transformation disappear. So now going into the last aspect of our framework on accelerate transformation is now what we call the performance optimization. So you were able to assess and prepare the readiness of the organization, the people as well. You have you are putting in place the capabilities needed. You have to sustain that. So under performance optimization, you have to be ready to provide tools and resources to increase performance. And these range from pulse surveys, you can have additional leadership and career development programs or solutions that might be uncovered during the process. So it might be that you did not really plan that in advance, but because of you're in touch with the people, you know where they are, where they're coming from, what their hurdles are, what their wins and successes are as well, then you are able to adjust your strategy or or come up with new strategies to make sure that you will be able to sustain the performance or the energy of your employees of the organization. It can be one-on-one executive coaching for those leaders who might be struggling. You can have, probably this time, you can now design a development plan for your high potentials who they came out and they shine when you had the transformation project. So you now want to make sure that they will be the leaders of the future. So these are resources or programs that you can come up to make sure that you are able to sustain the energy and the enthusiasm of the people. Now, this end-to-end framework has been developed to address both the pain and the gain, while at the same time allowing you to accelerate up the change curve. Going back to my question earlier about the change that's affecting you. So we have here some responses about resistance and employee mindset as well. So as you have seen from the responses here, resistance and employee mindset, because we can have advanced technology, we can have the best system. If the mindset is not there, we will have a problem. Actually, most transformations succeed because of people. In LHH, we are not a technology company. We do not support change on systems or technology. We are a workforce transformation company. So we help you address the people aspect of the change. And what I shared with you was based on our experience from the many years that we've been doing this, because it's really how your people feel about the change, how they see it, what will they sacrifice out of the transformation, what will they get out of the transformation. That is the basis of how they will respond to it as well. So if you are not able to make sure that you have the appropriate technology, and when I say technology, the intangible technology to support them, then we might not achieve what we want to achieve in the transformation. So we're at the last 15 minutes of our webinar today. Allow me to share with you some case studies of Lee Hecht Harrison. We have here one case study on global transformation where this is from a company that wanted to divest their financial services division. So it's the largest digital industrial firm, and what they needed to do was to keep the employees engaged and productive during the divestment. And they have to support the impacted employees that are losing their jobs, but most importantly, also support the remaining employees that will bring the business forward. What did we do? So we came up with a 4-phase program to support their employees and their leaders as well. So this is a co-design process with the client. We came up with engagement. We focused on building resilience and teaching people how to thrive in time of change and uncertainty. Then exploration. So this was now helping employees explore their aspirations. Readiness was focused on career planning and aligning capabilities. And then the last one is transition. So we focus on helping employees understand their transition benefits and start connecting them to job opportunities. What happened here was that we delivered programs where we're able to support them with solutions on mindset and future readiness. We helped 1,300 employees transition into new jobs. So they embraced it, minimal resistance, they were very open to it. And we supported 13 executive leaders in exploring new opportunities through different programs as well. So we localized the programs. Another case study that I can share with you is about a company not here in the Philippines, where they had to discontinue their production because of a government policy, and they have 2,700 employees. So what was their challenge was they had to become a pure sales and service organization from being a manufacturer. So that was their challenge. And what we did was, again, we came up with a comprehensive workforce transformation solution to support the leaders, the managers, and then also the employees. So it was in different programs, in different solutions, and it was a multi-phase program where we tried to address the resistance where they were coming from and make them see the opportunities of the transformation. It was difficult because from being a manufacturing to a sales and service organization is not easy. What happened here, there are surveys, and there we are still seeing high employee engagement levels. Over 74% of staff have a favorable opinion of the company from 71% in 2015. And there's also increase in staff engagement. So that these are case studies that I have shared with you, where we use the framework of Lee Hecht Harrison on accelerate transformation. So I am now at the end of my session. I know it's too short, and it was really just an overview of the framework where we talked about readiness of the organization, people readiness, the capabilities, and also optimizing the performance. It's too short. Email me. My email here is jassetre@lhh.com.ph. You can also follow me on LinkedIn, where we talk about these transformation. But again, do watch out, because we will organize a follow-up session of these topics. We will now dive into each of the aspects of the four parts of the Accelerate Transformation Framework. So we will now talk about in more detail what organizational readiness mean, how do we measure that, how do we measure readiness of people, how do we identify that, how do we design capabilities, what do we make sure that we are able to sustain that. So that is now what we will do. I have time, I guess, for one or two questions. So if you have any question, feel free to type it in the chat box. Otherwise, we will end our session, and we will see you in our next session. I guess questions are coming in, so feel free to type in your questions. I also want to take this opportunity that on January 22, which is next year, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas to everyone. We are having an economic forum, and we are inviting senior executives who will talk about their transformation journey. So we will have an economic expert who will talk about what's going to happen, of course, in the Philippines and also globally, and how will that impact the companies. And we have speakers who will also talk about what they do to respond to these drivers in the market. And this is a wonderful learning session for those who want to learn from those who have been there. Email me so that we can meet with you and talk about that event. So we have no questions. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you in our next webinars. Email me, follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn. And that's it for today. Thank you very much. And I hope you will all have a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.